Works.
Okay, it should be working.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction and welcome back. Delighted to be here for the second Global Forum on the ethics of AI from UNESCO. And coming here, I was reflecting on the fact that I couldn't think of a topic that could be really more current, more critical, and at the same time really more cryptic. Obviously, we know that AI and the ethics of AI is a very current topic, especially since the introduction of ChatGPT. This tool is in the hands of billions of people who are experimenting with it on a daily basis. We also seen the release of new AI tools almost on a daily basis. And we're seeing also business starting to embed these tools in product and services, really unlocking tremendous potential. At the same time, as I said, it's a very critical moment in time because AI ethics is obviously a critical topic for discussion. And here, I think of the words of President Biden that speaks of potential and peril. We obviously know that there is immense potential, even if we think, for example, of using the power of AI to unlock many of the SDG goals that we still need to achieve. And we know that we're very, very far behind when it comes to some of the SDG goals. But at the same time, we know that without ethical safeguards and guardrails, AI could obviously produce tremendous harm. We spoke about it earlier. We know about the risk of deepening divisions and bias. We have spoken about obviously the risk of amplifying disinformation, and we know how relevant this threat is, especially this year. Create new forms of exploitation, eroding the job market even further, and of course, threatening fundamental human rights and freedom. But I think there's another aspect that I mentioned earlier, the fact that AI is essentially a cryptic topic for many of us, many of the general public. And the general public here has really to rely on the competence of their governments. And this is really at a time when we know that trust in institutions is unfortunately at an all-time low. And that's why these recommendations from UNESCO are so strategically important, because they put human rights at the center, because they encourage transparency, and they really call for accountability. The framework also calls for collaboration, and I think this is a perfect evidence of that form of collaboration. And it's really important that we consider who has a seat at the table. ADG Ramos earlier was mentioning the Global South, and it's fantastic to see such a strong representation of the Global South in this format. But I would also add that it's really important that we communicate what we are doing clearly and effectively to the general public that, again, has very little understanding of what the governments are doing to regulate AI, to unlock its potential, but also to limit risk. So today we are really talking to leaders that are taking these frameworks from theory to practice. And we're going to be having countries grouped in categories of countries that have already adopted the readiness assessment. They're almost finishing it. We're going to be hearing from EU countries and countries outside the European Union. So I'll actually want to start with countries that have almost completed the readiness assessment methodology. And I'm actually going to start with Minister Ndong from Gabon, and then we're going to be speaking to the Dominican Republic and Uruguay. And I guess my first question for you is around ethical dilemmas. And if you can give us a sense of specific ethical dilemmas that were introduced by AI in your countries and how you are tackling them. If we can start with Gabon.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Please allow me to thank Slovenia and UNESCO for organizing this global forum and giving us the opportunity to share what we are doing in Gabon. So AI Adventure started in 2019 officially. So together with UNESCO and the Global Commission on Ethics of Innovative Solutions, we organized an awareness workshop on AI. And our idea was to launch the first discussions on AI in Gabon. And during that workshop, we talked about the stakes around AI. And we wanted to promote and be able to use AI as a development tool. And we also talked about warning policymakers about the use of AI. And in November 2021, so together with all the countries of UNESCO, we adopted a recommendation on ethics of AI. And after this, UNESCO provided support to the various member states and Gabon in the assessment process for the readiness for the implementation of AI. And we implemented a technical group for implementation of AI, and we have members of the ministries who are dealing directly with this issue. And this committee worked on the preliminary works for the assessment processes using the RAM tool. So on 20th of December in Libreville, together with UNESCO, we organized a workshop on the readiness level. And at the end of this workshop, the Prime Minister received a report by the UNESCO local representative. When we talk about AI governance, seeing the deep stakes and the challenges, the government is really involved at all the levels, at the highest levels too. And this is a first stage for us because we want to define a national strategy, and we really want to implement AI systems, even though we are still at the start of our works. So we want an adapted strategy, and our workshop helped us adopt 3 recommendations. First of all, we want to create an ad hoc committee to define the AI strategy for Gabon, and we want a national council who will organize the oversight of AI. We want to involve all the ministries as stakeholders and who will help implement our strategy. And we want to I would like to note also that the Prime Minister and the highest level of governments are involved too. So we are organizing an assessment and at a second stage involving all the stakeholders, the companies and all the funders. Among the various challenges, there is the issue of the question, the expert availability, infrastructure availability, and we need to organize things so that we can really use these opportunities presented by AI. And I am convinced that AI governance at a global level needs a collaborative and coordinated approach together among governments. We need the civil society, we need NGOs, we need international organizations, and we also would like to organize to foster cooperation. We would like to organize the first international forum on the AI in Central Africa. Thank you.
Keeping to time, we heard about collaboration, we heard about infrastructure and the need to engage civil society. I'd like to talk to Uruguay now and understanding also what efforts are taking place in your country.
Thank you. You know, I've been thinking right now, what's the new thing, the new thing in AI? The new thing is that AI, since OpenAI created ChatGPT, can speak, can talk with us. And it seems to be intelligent. It seems to be that we are talking with somebody because it has language. But this is an exercise that maybe this is not the best place to do it because you are all experts. But who in this room used AI yesterday or today? Please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't see so many hands. But this reminds me a university professor, criminal law professor, who asked us, who of you committed an offense or a crime and nobody raised their hands? But then we realized that at least once we were out of a law, of course, at minus offense. Criminal law is ultima ratio law. It's when states have no other option than prosecute and then jail. Thinking about regulation, I don't think to regulate with the pathology as a driver. Regulation have to be ultima ratio, but with a centric human right view. AI is more than generative AI. It's what we've been using for decades, and this is why we are struggling in government attempts to regulate. But what are we doing in Uruguay? We create a national artificial intelligence strategy. We integrate UNESCO ethical recommendations into the strategy and international principles and standards. We create the necessary institutional framework that allows progress in the definition of a government model, lead the implementation of the strategy. We analyze the appropriate regulatory framework from Uruguay, because in Uruguay we have robust laws of data protection and open government, so we have to evolve that laws. But we need to regulate our ecosystem, our environment, sorry. We launch an AI observatory as an instrument of transparency and accountability. We generate a comprehensive framework through the creation of the first national data strategy, digital citizen strategy, and national cybersecurity strategy. But how about the RAM, the readiness assessment? I think this tool make us walking the talk. You know, in particular, the application of the RAM tool has allowed us to carry out an exhaustive self-diagnosis and covering multiple dimensions that many not have covered if we have not applied this methodology. This diagnosis, as well as the recommendation that UNESCO make us, will be used as very valuable input that's very important for the design of the new institutional framework of Uruguay and the integration of ethical components in the national strategy. Thank you.
Thank you. I like talking the talk and walking the walk. So what's happening in the Dominican Republic?
Thank you.
One of the main challenges and concerns is the ethical use of AI for non-discrimination within public and private services. And this is expressed in the growing and accelerated race for the customization of artificial intelligence models in automation and digitalization processes. The big problem that this presents is that the artificial intelligence models existing on the market to generate customization processes. Their development base is English. And this generates dissonances when it comes to realities like the Dominican, where we speak Spanish. This puts us at risk of creating AI systems that can misinterpret information and data, leading to situations in which people are not treated equally. In other words, we run the risk of generating AI models that do not understand people. Another challenge that exists is regarding to data. This gets bigger when we choose to customize and not create artificial intelligence models of public interest and in Spanish, and that also do not rely on data infrastructure that guarantees the sovereignty of our citizens' data. Customization is useful when it comes to creating solutions that use public information, but when it comes to sensitive information related to citizens, we must necessarily opt for the construction of our own AI models of public interest, based on the language of the users of public services who will use it and support it by infrastructure that guarantees safe and responsible management of data and avoid gaps in privacy and security. Regarding the UNESCO RAM tool, it offers strategic support to overcome some of the obstacles. It provides key players in the Dominican Republic a structured way to analyze the existing AI ecosystem and formulate strategies that balance the need for innovation within ethical risk management. The tool offers guidance for conducting ethical impact assessments, developing informed policies, and training actors in the field of AI. This is essential to promote technological development that is aligned with the country's values and ethical principles.
I love the fact that you stressed on data protection, obviously another very important aspect. I'd like to turn to the EU countries represented here on stage. Obviously, a very important week last week. The EU AI Act is really approaching. How ready are you in your own countries to have the right frameworks that will take, obviously, the whatever is contained within the EU AI Act really into enforcement into practice? I'd like to start with a minister from Lithuania and then Romania.
Thank you, Antonia. First, let me express my gratitude to Slovenia and for the UNESCO for wonderful hospitality and for the possibility to discuss and to talk about the national agenda and as well European agenda for such a broad and very international audience. In Lithuania, the Ministry of Economy and Innovation, the main body developing policy on artificial intelligence governance, but in alignment with the requirements of European Union AI Act, it is foreseen that one more body will be designated or created for the implementation of the policy of AI governance. When it comes to national agenda, Lithuania already taken various legislative and strategic measures that indirectly impact artificial intelligence regulation, particularly in areas such as data privacy, anti-discrimination law, and digital strategy. In 2018, Lithuania issued strategic guidelines on artificial intelligence, emphasizing the integration of AI systems across various economic sectors. These guidelines will be reviewed in light of recent developments and, of course, in AI technologies and upcoming adoption of EU AI Act. Concerning the risks, the EU AI does not set any new rules for intellectual property rights protection. However, with the advancement of artificial intelligence, copyright protection and measures must be equally developed. From the perspective of Ministry of Culture, which is responsible on making policy on culture and public information policy, I would like to stress and highlight a few aspects. First of all, we need global regulatory solutions and dedicated attention to the rights of the creators whose content is used to develop and train artificial intelligence, to consider possible remuneration models for creators which with full respect of intellectual property rights, and it is important to include to the decision-making process international organizations such as World Intellectual Property Organization and national bodies which are responsible for the intellectual property. Secondly, the unstable situation all over the world and the war in Ukraine multiplies the risks of disinformation and misinformation and deepfakes, and the recent survey of the World Economic Forum showed that business leaders see artificial intelligence developed or supported misinformation and disinformation as the greatest challenge in the world for the next 2 years. So the topic needs very special attention and needs united forces from all over the world. And last but not the least, AI tends to multiply the mainstream cultures. So it is very important to pay special attention to preserving cultural and linguistic diversity. And this is very essential to the countries with a small population. So basically, that's the main risks we observe.
Thank you. We'll come back to the EU ministers as well. Minister Mititelu, what's happening in Romania? You're ready to implement?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start with saying thank you for your hospitality to Slovenia. It's my first time in Slovenia, and until now it was a great experience for me. And talking about AI Act, it was a strong debated document, and with a long way for having a final version in the trialogue. And actually, we are waiting now to see the official version in the official journey of European Union and start to set on the national level the governance of AI established. What institution will manage this part, and also not just what institution, but we'll have a lot of work, and we already started to invest in this part for processing power, because we want to be a lead in this part, let's say, of processing power, and having startups in the artificial intelligence part, and for this we are preparing an AI cloud based on GPU. Also, we saw that it's hard for us to find human resources in this field of artificial intelligence, and to find real experts in understanding the models, understanding the future of artificial intelligence, and it's very hard. Also, we are working on finding the right way for paying these people in this field and bringing them into the public administration. But we had a good practice example in Romania with the collaboration, and I think that will be the key for artificial intelligence in the European Union, the collaboration between public and private sector. We had this example with collaboration between the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Digitalization, let's say an AI startup, Humans AI, when we created the first Prime Minister advisor based on artificial intelligence. And we saw that collaboration between us providing the administrative framework to the private sector, it was the key, and we have great results. The Prime Minister Advisor, Ion, it's a bridge between policymakers and citizens, and using a mirror, let's say, we got the information with the with priorities of the citizens, and also we are preparing the second version with not just the advisor of the Prime Minister, also the advisor for citizens. So Ion already has some new features, and he is able to answer for questions like how to get a new passport, how to change my ID, and being a virtual public servant for citizens. But also it was hard, and it's hard for us to find the processing power for this public servant. But also we are preparing investing in the research part and national program for research. Starting from this year, we have a special chapter for artificial intelligence and also for cybersecurity. And I hope in short time, so we have a law for cybersecurity, and we said 10% of the research budget will go to the cybersecurity. I hope soon we'll have also a % for artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really interesting to hear about the application, for example, in public administration, and obviously the challenges that we heard already about talent and about connectivity and processing power. Let's now speak to two countries that haven't yet started the RAM, and I wanted to hear from the Maldives and from Mexico, understanding what tools are out there that you're actually using to craft your AI governance. I would like to start from the Maldives.
Thank you. Let me also start off by thanking and congratulating Slovenia and also UNESCO for hosting and organizing this very, very special event. I think this is what gives countries like ours the opportunity to explore and learn and to be engaged in processes that are happening worldwide. I think as for AI and as for the tool, I think the country is all ready to take up RAM and other policy guidelines and learn from it. as of now, specific guidelines or frameworks has not so far been developed and adapted. But I think it is how the approach that we should take that matters. I think starting with adaptability of the new technology in both governance and also in service delivery. I think that comes key. So once we start engaging the AI technology, certainly the need remains for us to take it there. Similarly, I think often we generally start with taking up issues, or you might call it as incident responses at the government level. But I think we can understand that it is important that we be prepared further ahead and address to these issues. And I do see these matters very appropriately being addressed within the realm for us to develop the framework. There is, however, work that is underway, usually at the higher education institutions levels, in terms of research, looking at perhaps frameworks that have been adopted in other countries, as well as one that has been developed by UNESCO on how we could in fact adapt it. And as I mentioned, I think we are keenly looking forward to utilizing these tools and adaptation. And in this regard, I think as a way forward, it's the international collaboration that equally we are looking at starting with exploring the existing collaborations with other organizations, other countries, which have so far moved quite far ahead in both regularizing, but at the same time, I would rather call it as facilitating the use and adaptation of this new technology, which is to stay. Equally, I think it's very important for small countries like ours for us to ensure that we build the technical capacity to work on these areas, because in terms of current available expertise, it is certainly a challenge that remains, but I think it's not about reinventing the wheel again, since there are already opportunities available. But I think the keen interest that is there for us, however small. By the way, Maldives is a country with a population of less than 500,000 people, with a very, very dispersed population. So often looking for talent in these areas, looking for expertise within, we may have challenges. However, interest in it, and I think looking for opportunities for us to work in these areas are important. So looking at these things, what we do feel that is required is a legal framework also to be put in place to facilitate this. So I think for us, we are at a stage, I think, especially looking at the tools, looking at the instrument that has been developed by UNESCO, and also on strategies that have been adopted by both UNESCO member countries and I think other countries, at a stage where we ourselves could start adapting these tools to the needs that are there. Because however small that we may be, I think the challenges still remain the same. And I think there can also be other unique challenges that we face due to the smallness, especially with regard to climate change and how low-lying countries like ours are affected. So how we can use data that is being currently collected both at the national level and internationally, using AI to predict perhaps potential dangers that could also exist for us. So, yeah, so I think we are all ready to take this up. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister. And again, we hear about scale, we hear about talent, and we hear about collaboration. Eager to hear from Mexico Ambassador to understand, obviously very different size in terms of population of country, whether you are seeing the same challenges and what tools are you operating at the moment to be ready to adapt.
Thank you very much, Antonio. And first of all, let me join my colleagues in thanking the government of Slovenia and UNESCO for organizing this very, very important meeting. Coming to your questions, Antonio, yes, it's true that we have not begun yet to implement RAM, but that doesn't mean that Mexico has not begun to take care of what we should be doing in the realm of innovation ecosystems and, among others, AI. So let me share with you briefly in this panel what we've been doing, what reflections we've been going through. First, I would like to say that the RAM as such is a very thoroughful and very thoughtful instrument. And from that perspective, we think that we would need to work on two different levels. The first one is obvious, to keep implementing it at the domestic level. And at the second level, internationally, we have to keep promoting it because it's important to have a common base of understanding, especially if we are dealing with the features of AI, in this case, the asymmetry with which it impacts on us. So that's the first comment. The second comment is we have found that the RAM is very, very useful for one very simple reason. It is not a closed or prescriptive set of criteria. It is open-ended. And this is very important because that helps us understand the challenge. What I'm trying to say here is that we are in Mexico pondering the challenge that poses the main features of this kind of technology. Some authors have signaled these features as, for instance, it's ubiquitous, it is hyper-evolutive, it is asymmetric, it is highly autonomous. So we need time to reflect on the changes or the impacts that these features really impinge upon our policies. And we need time to think. We are all running, but we need to think first what kind of challenge we have in front of us. From that perspective, it's also very important that the RAM does not answer questions. It raises questions. And in order to keep up with the rapid development of technology, we think that that really is something that we should be stressing of the RAM. It really helps us to think of how to approach the challenge. My third and last comment is, again, we have not implemented yet RAM, though we have heard this morning from my colleague in the Senate the initiatives that some legislators are taking on board. And these are really a good example of implementation of the RAM and try to find ways to strengthen collaboration. And in that point, well, I'll come back later in order to give you a hint of how we are doing implementing and strengthening our common endeavor with other branches of the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. And I really like your point about it doesn't answer questions, but it raises a lot of questions. And one of the questions, I guess, and coming back to the countries that are almost finished to implement the ramp, is how you balance out the need for innovation, but at the same time, this desire to control and obviously to regulate as much as possible, putting human rights at the center. And I wanted to start again with Gabon to give me a sense of how you are dealing with this challenge.
Il est important de noter. it's important to note that whatever we do in our country, we do it with the population and for the population. The population, the people, are the first beneficiaries of any and all policies that we implement, including regarding AI. The use of AI in administration we're taking baby steps in Gabon. We are setting up a vast digitalization program called Gabon Digital, the goal of which is to reduce the lack of access to the internet in order for administration to be more efficient and work with more efficacy. Again, we're taking baby steps, but international collaboration can help us. When you think about protecting the environment, for example, thanks to funding from the EU through a program called EcoFact 6, and thanks to Gabonese funding, a team of Gabonese researchers and international researchers worked hand in hand with the University of Stirling in Scotland, Epsilon Machine Learning Solutions in Poland, and they set up a software called Monzai AI in order to help preserve biodiversity in Central Africa. This software can analyze images within a couple of hours, and it makes it possible for eco-guards to notice any early sign of warning from the animal population and to act quickly when it's needed. So the efficacy of that solution is supported, bolstered by the ability of the software to work with no internet connection. You have to know that Gabon loses about 2 tons of ivory, so that's about 150 elephants per month, because of poaching, because of poachers. So here is a practical example of how AI can help us protect elephant populations and how we can best protect our environment through AI. So overall, Gabon doesn't yet have a formal mechanism dedicated to the implementation of AI solutions, but we do have legal and regulatory solutions that make it possible for us to adopt. For example, we have a set of schemes to protect data, so personal data protection. We work on cybersecurity, and through such acts of law, we can have an overview of what is going to happen with AI. So we have approaches in place already. Regarding, we are trying to support systems that can minimize risks related to or that we have detected through the RAM process. We have identified the same challenges as most of the other countries have. So we know how important it is, for example, to manage autonomy, to make sure that we also have AI solutions that work for our people. We do not want to have solutions that are imposed from outside, from the EU, from other countries as well, that we just are happy to apply. We want to build our own solutions to make sure that these solutions satisfy our population's own need, and so that we can protect our population, because AI can mold the identity of a population. We want to preserve our sovereignty and our safety by creating our own AI solutions. And our biggest challenge in that respect will be not only to build a regulatory framework, but also to work with AI experts. So to train experts and to train the population themselves to make sure that they can use AI, and so that they know about the risks that they are exposed to when they use AI or applications that are often already in mobile phones when you buy the mobile phone, but that come from other countries, including Europe. So there are many challenges for us in terms of national security, in terms of sovereignty, and in terms of ownership and management of our own data. So we have to build a collaborative framework in Central Africa, in the sub-region, and in the region too, in order to better be integrated into what is happening at a global stage. Thank you.
I love this idea of a bottom-up approach to tackle challenges that are specific to different geographies with solutions that are coming from the country. Again, continuing the conversation with the countries that have almost finished to implement the RAM, hearing from Uruguay, whether you're facing similar challenges and whether the approach has been the same.
Yeah, I think the world is facing similar challenges against this new technology, with, I don't remember how you say it in
brackets.
Yeah, I'm more intelligent in Spanish, but sorry. I think the entire world is facing some similar problems facing this AI. Because how can we regulate something that we've been using for decades? Our people using AI for decades for the same companies or international companies, big companies, and everybody of us are using every day AI algorithm. So how our governments, how our states have to regulate them. And in Latin America, we don't have even infrastructure that we can deploy AI systems. So it's worst for us. So this kind of summit, this kind of group of people that have been here around the world is very useful for us. The international collaboration is very useful for us, for Latin America, for Uruguay, and for those countries that has not infrastructure to deploy AI. Uruguay is making a great effort to establish synergies and engage its national strategy with instruments, tools, and experience for other organizations and countries within which we can highlight adherence to the recommendation on AI ethics and the application of evaluation of the degree of preparation of the country. And we also carrying out the process of adhering to the principle of the OECD on AI and participating in different mechanisms, regional and global. As an example, we are participating in the AI group of ILAC. This is Digital Agenda of Latin America and Caribbean. The AI group and data governance on the OAS, and the AI working group of the Digital Alliance, European Union, Latin America. I think the highlight of international collaboration was in the COVID pandemic. And when we learned that if we collaborate internationally, we can achieve way results. For example, in our country, Uruguay was the first country to have European Union COVID passport. And that's why we already have the ADAS personal ID standard. So it was easy with the standards and with the international collaboration. And then I would like to again say that this kind of forum, this kind of summit is very important for us. And with UNESCO, we are going further. Next July, we are get together in Uruguay to establish an AI group to Latin America has one voice, one bigger voice in the international discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Mr. Pujals, we heard about this idea of collaboration across countries. Wondering how your country has tackled some of these tensions between innovation and regulation.
I can bring two examples, one national and the second regional. The first one is about our national artificial intelligence strategy, which arises from our national innovation policy, because for us, artificial intelligence in the context of the fourth industrial revolution responds and must respond in these countries to a new engine of development. That is a new industrial policy based on knowledge. What we want is to move from communities that consume technology to industries that produce technology. And it was created, this strategy was created with all the ecosystem. The second example is what we have been doing at the regional level, which was commented by my colleague from Uruguay, thanks to the support of UNESCO and CAF, with the regional working group on AI ethics, which seeks to ensure that Latin America has a voice in this global discussion, and that is why we are advancing in the creation of a regional institutionality through a regional council of AI, where in addition to providing elements for the regulatory governance of these issues in ethics, we also promote the creation of a regional industry based on 4.0 technologies, such as AI, to create the companies of the new economy that will create better jobs and more well-being for our countries. I am convinced that these two examples of co-creation guarantee legitimacy, sustainability, and trust in the public policies that we will promote and implement. Thank you very much.
Excellent examples of collaboration, regional collaboration, obviously turning back to the EU ministers here. Obviously, the EU has done a lot of the grouping work for you. With the Act, coming to the finishing line, what are the next milestones in your own countries? And curious also if you could share perhaps some golden nuggets. What have you learned through this process? It's been a process that the world has been watching. Obviously, it's a global first at a European level. Obviously, hoping this will be a significant success. If we can hear from Lithuania and Romania, or what are going to be the next milestones in countries for you?
As for the next steps, each European Union member state needs to comply the requirements of European Union Digital Single Act, and as well as you mentioned, EU AI Act. Lithuania as well will consider the possibility to adopt UNESCO recommendation with the enforcement of the EU AI Act. Our main goal that the regulation would help to avoid the risks associated with the application of artificial intelligence, but on the same time, it should not stop the development of artificial intelligence technologies and the potential of innovation. We also need not to forget that AI is game-changing technology which is developing every day, and that artificial intelligence governance frameworks will also need to evolve and remain somehow in some way flexible. Various preventive measures should be developed, but the principles of fundamental rights protection will remain the same. When it comes to national perspective, a couple months ago, Lithuanian Parliament, the Committee of the Future, established the working group on artificial intelligence, whose mission is to develop and implement a legal framework for artificial intelligence technologies in line with global and European Union standards in the areas of human rights and the rule of law. It is planned that working group will include a wide range of stakeholders, academia, researchers, businesses and civil society. As well, Lithuania has a Lithuanian Artificial Intelligence Association, which consults and assists national institutions in programming artificial intelligence innovation. At this point, it is very essential that adequate and sufficient sources of funding are secured at the European Union level for research and for the establishment of sandboxes. As well, financial incentives for the cross-border projects would be also very, very useful, who's allowing the widest possible exchange of knowledge and the best practices. In addition, the implementation of European Union Artificial Intelligence Act should establish a consultation mechanism to enable EU member states to consult and exchange best practices both with the European Commission and with each other. And new technologies have the potential to foster the development of the creative economy. We need to create policies and programs that would help companies and employees upskill their qualifications to open the new opportunities. And we congratulate approved financial support from the European Union Commission through Horizon Europe program, as well Digital Europe program dedicated to generative artificial intelligence. This package will generate an additional overall public and private investments around 4 billion euros until 2027.
Thank you, Minister. Obviously, similar question for Romania.
Thank you very much. The next step will be the National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence, 2024-2027. We already put the strategy with the governmental decision in the public consultation. We had on the document, on the strategy, a long public consultation because it's a sensitive subject, and we wanted to have a good debate and to have involved committees of artificial intelligence, local association of city halls or villages, also research research institutes, universities. So we are in the last steps of having this strategy adopted by governmental decision. Also, the next steps will be, after we have this strategy, to implement our action plan from that strategy. And it's important to mention that we included the UNESCO recommendation in the strategy, and also it's in line with the AI Act. So we waited a little bit after AI Act, but we are ready to implement the educational part of artificial intelligence, having experts formed by universities, bachelor programs, more bachelor programs in artificial intelligence, also in health part, and also we are looking to support SMEs with dedicated programs. Already my colleague from Lithuania said about Digital Europe, Horizon, but also I have in our national plan of recovery and resilience funds for SMEs for digital advanced skills, and in this part more than 2,000 SMEs from Romania will got the opportunity for educational part on artificial intelligence. Also, we are looking to implement in as soon as possible our national platform for interoperability, because as we discussed, the main two factors for artificial intelligence are data sets and processing power. We are looking to have this national platform for interoperability so we can create new models for artificial intelligence applied in public administration. And I mentioned you the public servant base of artificial intelligence. Actually, we connected our national catalog for public services with this AI model, so we have this kind of results. And also, we are working for creating the AI cloud and also governmental cloud using money from National Recovery and Resilience Plan, more than 560 millions of euro for this national cloud. So for 4 data centers, a lot of GPU and also a lot of processing, conventional processing power for public administration and also for academic institutes. And we are looking to have a strong collaboration with private sector and also with our European partners and our strategic partners, because we are dealing with the same opportunities and also with the same problems, and it's important to have government to government collaboration, government to business collaboration, and also business to business collaboration in this field of artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you really summarized it really well. It's an enormous task, right? Business to business, government to government, involving the academia, involving obviously the people, because essentially these are tools for people. you have a roadmap. You have the AI Act. I mean, for countries, obviously smaller countries, but the Maldives, that don't have exactly that roadmap, how does the challenge translate for you? Is it an even bigger challenge, for example, or you think the scale will allow you to tackle these challenges in a slightly different manner?
Well, I think relative, I think it would remain a challenge of equal importance or equal weightage, I would say. As for the Maldives, I think the areas where we are also looking at is like from the sector which I come from, higher education, looking at employment, higher education, I think with AI, in terms of regularization, it is a key sector that needs to be looked at. But I think more than that, more than setting the regulations for that, what we ought to be looking at is the opportunities that it brings through AI. So for this, again, looking, I think, from a whole different perspective is very, very important. The opportunities AI would bring would mean reshaping the way that education is provided, not just at higher education, but at the school level too. I think as concerns or challenges which often many people whom, for example, generative AIs like GPTs when introduced were about the issues of plagiarism or with regard to data privacy and such issues. While these remain challenges, and I think regulatory frameworks also need to be put in place, but I think it's more important for us to look at embracing the technology that has come in. So I think the initial challenge that remains with us as governments will be, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of adapting technology to the needs that we have, even in terms of providing services, in terms of providing perhaps understanding jobs or making education more inclusive, more needs-oriented, for example. And similarly, on the cases of even environment and other matters that remain on the issues of climate change, on us observing island erosion, the impact that it is going to, the marked sea level rise is having every day on the islands, and how it is going to impact on perhaps agriculture or even just the survival of these islands and the communities within them. Ensuring that through these technologies that we gather enough data, we do proper analysis to facilitate us in setting clear policies or guide us in that direction. So it's all about harnessing, I think, the benefits, the opportunities that exist, and then looking forward to adapting it. So which for us, I think, as I mentioned, a key priority will be addressing on the skills that are required and ways of collaborating with others to gain those skills at the country level.
Thank you, Mr. Shafeeu. Thank you for, again, bringing back this idea of practicality, right? What it means for your country when it comes to practical adaptation of technology that might help you alleviate risks of coastal erosion or climate change. Going back to, Ambassador, going back to Mexico, what does success then look like for you in the short and medium term?
Thank you very much for the question. As I was saying, it's not that we have not implemented yet certain instruments as RAM. We've been doing our homework in other areas. So let me go briefly again in 3 very specific comments. First, during the last decade, Mexico has seen a very dynamic evolution of the innovation ecosystems. It's been blooming. And part of the success, or probably the main aspect of the success, is that this process has been bottom up. Now, in order to consolidate this, we need to make our ecosystems more cohesive. So that's the first challenge that we have. We need to finalize our mapping of these ecosystems in order to identify capabilities and, of course, the needs within those ecosystems. And finally, in that area, we would need to strengthen our dialogue and collaboration with private sector, with the scientific and academic community, and of course, within the government. Now, come to the second part, government. Well, we need to take an all-in or all-government-in approach, because it's very easy to say that we have an executive that keeps giving orders, but we need a government whose instances really understand the technological development, what are the challenges, and what are the opportunities. This is very important. And of course, a third element would be, how do we engage with other branches of the state, with the legislative and with the judiciary? Now, and probably this is the most important remark, at least from the Mexican experience. While we are engaging in these dialogues, in this effort to strengthen our collaboration, we must think of the way in which politics are being made, impinged by technology. We need to think or rethink our social contract within the scope of emerging technologies. Because AI as an emerging technology will not be only shaping education, it will be shaking everything. And we need to reflect on that. That's, for us, a fundamental step. We need to think the state forwards and not backwards. And we need to do it domestically, of course, and probably we would need to think of the global social contract in that perspective. So I know this is a little bit too conceptual, but to us it's really very, very important. Once we have an idea where we would be heading, then the elements of our strategy would be easier to be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. A very good point. And again, if we look at all the countries in the world, it's not exactly that we've done a fantastic job at regulating social media. We're still talking about the harm on youth, on minorities, on we're having obviously half of the world's voting this year, and there's a lot of attention on what's going to happen on those platforms. So I think a good reminder of how we need to move from theory to practice for the sake of our people. I'm going to end from where I started, but I'm going to ask you to do something slightly different. I'm going to ask you to just name an opportunity that you see, obviously with the acceleration of AI technology, a challenge that you see, one of the hurdles that you have encountered in your country, and one piece of advice that you want to give to countries that are perhaps a little bit behind on this journey. So challenge, opportunity, roadblock, and a piece of advice. And we're starting from Gabon again.
For Gabon, we have about 2 million of inhabitants. So AI for us is a huge opportunity because it will create a lot of jobs. It will also help us develop new tools for education, research, innovation. And for us today, it is important to diversify our economy. We are very dependent to mining and quarrying and oil economy, for example. And so for us today, the digital economy using AI would be a very important new pillar and help us diversify an economy, and we will leave this oil dependency. And so this is for us one of the main opportunities that we can identify that is linked to the use of AI. So this is a real challenge. We need experts. We need to develop our own AI solutions. and a piece of advice for other African countries. When it comes to the AI use in the world, we are at the same level as everybody. So internet kind of surprised us. We were consumers of the internet, but for the AI, we are in the same starting blocks. And we will also be able to develop our own solutions. So we won't be consumers only of AIs coming from outside, but we will and we should unite to have one voice, and we have one common bedrock in West Africa. And it is important for us to organize ourselves following the example of Latin America, and we need to defend our own interests, the interest of our people, because behind the AI you have data management, but there are also opportunities when it comes to financial resources, creation of new jobs. And so in Africa we need to come together, speak with one voice, identify our tasks, and we are not late. Nobody is late now. We are all in the same starting blocks, and through collaboration, by sharing best practices and also integrating initiatives like the GPA, for example, we can work together and we will seize those opportunities that are linked to the use of AI. So for us, this is a real opportunity. Of course, there are risks, but together with UNESCO, with their support, and getting inspired by what is happening elsewhere, we can take those risks. Every technology comes with risks. And so we need today to seize the opportunities by mitigating the risks. And I think we can do that in a collaborative manner by integrating existing initiatives and by sharing best practices with other countries in the world. Thank you.
Let's continuing through this theme. So let's hear from Uruguay when it comes to opportunities, challenges, advice.
Yeah, and
roadblocks.
Yeah. I think the challenge for the government, at least for my government, is that we cannot stop the evolution of technology, but we have, as states, as governments, to ensure that we are leaving no one behind. I think this is the main challenge for us. And it's a kind of opportunity, because always a new technology is an opportunity. An opportunity if we are able to ensure that we can build capacity and skills to our people. I think that digital citizenship must have AI skills in the future. And an advice, again, I think that we don't have to regulate AI with the pathology as a driver. And I think we have to move quickly, but not fast. And that's it.
Thank you. A last word.
Digital capacities for data, opportunities to improve social rights. We will not be able alone. We will not make it alone. We have to be together and have a regional point of view.
Really a pleasure talking to you, understanding how many commonalities are actually really cross-cutting across the world. It's been a lesson of geography at the same time. I was reflecting on the latest Edelman Trust Barometer, which I religiously follow. It gets presented at Davos every year. And this year, Edelman speaks of a collision of trust, innovation, and politics. And they highlight how half of the world obviously will be voting this year with elections at a time when technology continues to accelerate and making very fast strides, and at a time where trust in government continues to be at an all-time low. And some very worrying remarks that come from the Edelman Trust Barometer is that more than half of the participants worry about societal threats that might be introduced by technology. And they also have the perception that government lack the competence to regulate technology effectively. So I think we heard a lot of plans, a lot of solutions from all the countries here. And I think it is an exciting opportunity to flip this narrative again and to demonstrate that we'll learn from the mistakes on not being able to regulate social media when the time was right. And maybe this is an exciting opportunity for all the countries, obviously here on stage, but not only for the country here on stage, to really demonstrate that government can lead effectively. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.